Hello and welcome to the latest Agenda podcast on the Blood Red channel. I'm Matt Addison, and as you can see, alongside me is our Echo writer, Dan Kay. Dan, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, Matt. Yourself?
Yeah, not so bad. Just keeping an eye on some German football this afternoon, which has not been a bad thing for the last few weeks, certainly.
No, absolutely. And hopefully only a couple of weeks away now from some Premier League action to get our teeth stuck into.
Yes, exactly that. I'm sure there'll be a fair few Liverpool fans and Chelsea fans as well keeping an eye on Timo Werner this afternoon as well. Obviously, the news that has broken over the last couple of days regarding him. I mean, first of all, Dan, what are your thoughts on that situation? And have Liverpool maybe made the right decision or the wrong decision?
Well, I think it's one of those where kind of time will tell. The general kind of theme and narrative over the last couple of months, really, probably even before the lockdown in March, seemed to be that it almost seemed like a fait accompli. All the noises we heard coming out of Werner and his camp in Germany was that he was desperate to come to Liverpool. In many ways, he seemed to tick a lot of boxes in terms of his profile, his background, his skill set. The fact that he was young and wanted to kind of be hungry and learn wouldn't necessarily go straight into the team. Kind of seemed to fit in. That would suit Liverpool as well, because obviously the front three that Liverpool have at the moment still have, you would like to think, a good few years ahead of them, but you want to kind of supplement that and have quality backup ahead of time and not leave it too late. So I think, like most people, I think there was a general sense of surprise when news broke. The latest on Thursday night, I think, wasn't it, that Chelsea were now favourites to sign him. Now, our latest transfer rumours roundup that's just gone online on the Echo website in the last hour or so features a line from just bear with me 1 second, basically saying that it isn't necessarily all over bar the shouting. I think it's a German football writer suggesting that this latest development may provoke Liverpool into action. And literally in the last few minutes, we've had a tweet flagged to us from RB Leipzig, Oliver Mintzlaff.
Yes, Oliver Mintzlaff, the RB Leipzig chief executive.
He's the chief exec, right? Well, there's basically a quote from him to Sky Germany in the last half hour saying, "We haven't had an exchange with Chelsea yet. So far, Timo Werner has not drawn the clause, nor has the club sent a transfer contract. We have nothing to report and do not take part in the daily speculation." Now, I suppose that's a fairly straight bat that you would expect a chief exec of a club in their position to play. I think the key aspect, as far as I'm concerned, is that, listen, we all want to see Liverpool sign top players, and ever since the Werner rumours have started, we've all been keeping an eye on the stories, the clips, obviously since the Bundesliga's come back onto our screens, everyone's been watching that as well. The reality is, the Liverpool Football Club, Jurgen Klopp, Michael Edwards, Mike Gordon, everybody involved in recruitment at Liverpool have more than earned the right to be trusted. And if they feel that this is not the right deal at the right time, whether for financial reasons or otherwise, then I think it would be crazy to kind of take them to task for that. They know that ultimately they're going to have to supplement and build on this squad because it's not going to last forever. But they've got to cut the cloth accordingly and just do what's best for the club. The reaction from some, not all, but some Liverpool supporters on the internet, with FSG out, petitions being created and saying, "Oh, they're worse than the Glazers." I honestly just don't get what planet some people are on, man. It does seem some supporters seem to kind of see transfers as a bigger deal than trophies. But from my point of view, yeah, it was a bit surprising and maybe slightly disappointing, because I suppose you'd want to hear the news that, yeah, he's signing. But if Jurgen Klopp and his team don't feel it's the right decision, then I've got absolutely no problem backing them. And I would imagine the majority of Liverpool fans would feel the same.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line, isn't it? I think it's easy to forget, really, over the years. There's been different transfers that haven't happened. And even when you think of ones like Van Dijk, it didn't happen at the time, but then there was discussion for 6 months and then it's happened and then it's come off perfectly. So, yeah, certainly I think the reaction from some, as you say, has been slightly over the top. But whatever happens with Timo Werner, wherever he ends up, I think it's fair to say that if he doesn't come to Anfield, there'll be a little extra slot. Maybe the fourth choice attacker might be up for grabs. And obviously, Divock Origi has been there or thereabouts. And Takumi Minamino as well is somebody that Liverpool fans are still waiting to see the best of. From what we've heard and seen, he's been impressing in training. Do you think this break potentially and this sort of lead up to the Premier League season resuming could have come maybe at the right time for Minamino.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he came in January, and there was a straight into the thick of things in the FA Cup Merseyside derby, and showed a couple of reasonable touches, even if obviously it was a derby, it was 100 miles an hour for him. And it's not an easy situation to come into where, this is a Liverpool team, at that stage, it was literally winning every single week. And, Jurgen Klopp hasn't really altered or tinkered or rotated with that lineup too much. So I think there was always going to be a bit of a bedding in period for him. And obviously it was a huge move for him. Right? It wasn't his first move into Europe, but it's a different country, different language, learning to fit in and check with his new surroundings, his new teammates. So I think the other aspect as well that will certainly be to his advantage, and possibly to some of the younger players like Curtis Jones, Nico Williams, some others on the fringes of the squad who were looking to kind of show what they can do and put themselves in the mix for next season and how Liverpool are going to look to formulate their squad then, is the fact this announcement that there's going to be, is it 9 subs on the bench, but 5 you can use during a game?
Something like that, yeah. Definitely 5, yeah.
Instead of 3. I mean, it may well be like cup finals, like the Champions League final. You can possibly name 11 on the bench. But the point is you can make 5 substitutions during a match. So particularly as, no one's counting any chickens, but as we all know, Liverpool are 2 games away from sealing the title, and there's 9 games left. So even if we hope it's done in 2 games, because I'm still personally a little bit fearful that if we get this bad second spike, everything might shut down again, and it would be awful if they got 1 win and we were 1 win away from it, and then it stopped again. But whether it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 games, it's not going to take 9, is it? So you would imagine, particularly in those games, hopefully once touch wood the title is sealed, that would possibly be. And I suppose there's an issue as regards the integrity of the league, because some of the matches Liverpool will be playing in, maybe against teams fighting for relegation spots or Champions League. So, Klopp will do what's best for Liverpool, but at the same time, I think he'll also try and balance that out with the integrity of the competition. But the bottom line, Matt, is that, there should be ample opportunities for the likes of Minamino, for the likes of Curtis Jones, for the likes of some of these others that are looking to put a marker down really for next season, to show the manager and everybody watching what they can do.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree with that. I mean, I think it's only 3 times he's come off the bench so far, Minamino, in the Premier League. And generally when he's played for Liverpool, it's been as a number 9, hasn't it? It's been through the middle, sort of basically trying to replicate what Roberto Firmino brings to the side. I mean, that's a very difficult role to fulfill, isn't it? And obviously, we spoke to Jesse Marsh, who's coached him before last week, and he sort of said, he can play in a few different positions and that sort of thing. I mean, would you expect Jurgen Klopp to continue to play him through the middle? Do you think that seems to be where he's most comfortable, or do you think there might be an opportunity to experiment a bit in the final few games?
He's been at Liverpool, getting on for 5 years in October. And I think the one thing that we can say about Jurgen Klopp is that, he does like players who are versatile, that can fulfill more than one role, that is, tactically flexible and can fit and move around with the system. I mean, I think he certainly made his debut against Everton when he started in that kind of front number 9 role. But, Firmino is a unique footballer. I don't think I've ever really seen anyone like him. And I think Klopp is probably smart enough to realize that it's probably impossible to try and replicate him, because I just don't think there's another player like him. So I think there may be a certain degree of trial and error where, he's played in a number of different formations alongside different players. And it's a case of seeing what works, what doesn't work, what could be improved on. I think another key facet of Klopp's management is his ability to get the most out of the players at his disposal. Over this near 5-year period at Anfield now, you can look at a lot of players who have really developed and come on a long way under his tutelage. So, but it doesn't always happen overnight. There's a number of players who came into Liverpool and took time to hit the ground running. I mean, I remember Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who I always thought was a decent player at Arsenal and played for England and so on. But his first couple of months at Anfield, he looked way off the pace. And it's not like he hadn't been playing for Arsenal. I think one of his last games for Arsenal was against Liverpool at Anfield. But it took time to kind of, it's not just the tactical stuff. It's the level of fitness that's required to play for a Jurgen Klopp team. It takes time, and it's even Firmino looks like a fit lad. It's apples and oranges. It's a whole different ball game. So I think as time goes on, he will he will find his feet and hopefully find his niche within this squad and be part of the evolution of this Liverpool team, which has won the European Cup, the World Club Championship, is on the brink of winning the league. But the fact that Klopp signed a new contract, towards the end of last year, shows that he is in for the long haul, and I think ultimately he's going to be looking to build, a second side, much like Bill Shankly did in the early 70s after his success in the mid 60s. But it won't happen overnight. I mean, Shankly went 7 years without a trophy. I'm not sure if the modern football landscape would allow that for Jurgen Klopp, but look at it. Even if there is a certain amount of development going on, Klopp very much seems to have tied into this mentality. It's not just about winning. Winning is very important, but it's about the journey, and that's why even if it was only last May when he finally put that first piece of silverware on in the trophy room at Anfield, there was this inescapable sense of progress and momentum that was happening with the club. And I think even, I fully expect Liverpool to challenge very strongly for the league next season and have a really good chance of retaining it. But so long as I think we can see that same kind of progress and evolution that we've seen right the way through, then certainly I as a supporter will have no complaints about that, because no one's got a divine right to win every year.
No, and I think that's probably why Jurgen Klopp, if no one was to be signed this summer, I think he'd be quite happy to go again, because, of course, Liverpool 25 points clear. They could win the league by more than 25 points, which would be quite incredible. I mean, I've seen a few different people sort of saying that if he went with Minamino rather than going out and buying somebody else, Liverpool might regress a little bit this season. But I mean, even if they did, even if they regressed by 24 points, they could still be champions next season.
Absolutely. I mean, the bar has been raised to such an extraordinary extent over the last couple of years. Initially by Manchester City and then by Liverpool catching up with them. That you basically got to aim for 100 points to win a league. Now, I don't know if that is sustainable in the long term. Obviously we all waiting to see what happens with City in terms of I think it's next week that they've got the hearing at CAS, haven't they? The Court of Arbitration as regards Champions League ban, and obviously that could prove to be quite significant. I mean, Chelsea may well challenge stronger next season if they do get Werner. They've already brought in someone else after these.
Hakim Ziyech from Ajax, and reportedly looking at Ben Chilwell as well, who's a fantastic left back. So
they've got money. I do think Lampard's a good young, is a very promising young manager. So other teams will be better next year, and that may well mean that I'm not going to say you're going to win the league with 25, but it may well be back down to a more normal figure of 85, 90. So, like you say, if Liverpool don't maybe win 95% of all their league matches, which is basically what they've been doing for the last 18 months or so, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're in the doldrums and we'll all be marching around Anfield with Klopp out banners.
No, certainly not. And hopefully, as you say, Takumi Minamino could be a little bit more settled, and we might see a little bit more of him. I'm sure over the last few weeks, he's been training hard with his Liverpool teammates, and given we don't expect there to be too long a period between the end of this season and the start of next season, I suppose the final question really is, Jurgen Klopp will be treating this period now and the final few games of this season really as pre-season for next season as well. So pretty much you'd expect him to go strong on that basis, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is probably the longest break a lot of these players have had for years, because in terms of time, it's already longer than a conventional close season. But you've got to remember as well, in most close seasons, every other year there's an international tournament, and even in the other ones, there's usually something going on. So, as I mentioned before, particularly this season, Klopp has largely relied on a kind of core of maybe 11 to 15 players. And to some degree, even if obviously no one would have wanted it in these circumstances, it probably has done them a degree of good in able to recharge the batteries, shake off whatever little niggles and, pain barriers that a lot of pros play through. And it may well serve them well going into next season, however long the break is going to be, which obviously we don't know, that they're able to hit the ground running. And that's why I think there'll be, even if they do wrap up the league in 2 games, there is an element, like I said before, the integrity of the competition. I'm sure they've got a desire to, points records and become Liverpool's most dominant champions ever. But also as well, it's an opportunity to put down a marker for next season and to build momentum so they can start strong and hopefully just firm the grip on the league table as they did last year. Although I don't know if we can necessarily expect it to be quite the procession, but a few of us have expressed this view, the fact that obviously the situation that we're in, when hopefully it is when rather than this league title is clinched, we're not going to be able to celebrate it in the manner we've all dreamed of for 30 years. That that's another aspect that should hopefully just get a fire burning in them to go and great teams. It takes a great team to win the league, but it takes an even greater team to retain it. And if they can do that, they really will be putting themselves in the pantheon, and so they could use this situation to their advantage. And I'm sure that's what they'll be looking for.
Definitely, as you said, sure, all of the players and probably Takumi Minamino as much as anybody will hopefully go into next season fit and firing and hopefully settled in by that point. But thanks very much for that, Dan. That's all we've got time for today. We will see you next time here on the Agenda podcast, and we will, of course, have plenty more content across Blood Red and the Liverpool Echoes website over the next few days.